Syed Mohammad Marandi was born on May 14, 1966, in Richmond, Virginia, at a time when his family lived in political displacement. His parents were Iranians who had left their homeland under pressure from the Pahlavi monarchy. His father, Alireza Marandi, had already faced political trouble for criticizing the state before leaving Iran. From the beginning, Mohammad Marandi's life was shaped by ideology, power, and exile. He spent his earliest years in the United States, growing up between two worlds. Outside the home, he absorbed American culture, language, and media. Inside, he heard stories of Iran, of injustice, of struggle, of a homeland bound to faith and resistance. That dual identity left a permanent imprint. He learned early that reality depends on who tells the story. When the Islamic Revolution reshaped Iran, his family returned. The move was not simply geographical. It placed him inside a society redefining itself through religion, sacrifice, and confrontation with the West. For a boy raised in America, the shift was profound. Iran was not only different, it demanded loyalty. It framed history as a moral struggle between domination and independence. This environment forged a worldview in which politics was never abstract. It was existential. As a teenager, Marandi experienced the atmosphere of war. The Iran-Iraq conflict was not a distant headline. It was lived reality. He has spoken of volunteering during the war and of surviving exposure to chemical weapons. Whether understood as literal biography or as symbolic narrative, the meaning is clear. His political psychology was shaped by siege. People who grow up under bombardment do not see geopolitics as debate. They see it as survival. Education became his path to power. He studied in Iran, then traveled to Britain, earning a doctorate at the University of Birmingham. His academic focus was not random. He specialized in English literature and Orientalism, the study of how the West represents the East. He dissected how novels, poems, and cultural myths construct images of other civilizations. He learned how language creates hierarchy, how narratives justify domination. This made him something rare, an intellectual trained inside Western academic frameworks who returned to defend a revolutionary Islamic state. Most scholars analyze power from a distance. Marandi stepped into it. At the University of Tehran, he taught English literature and North American studies. But the classroom was never his final arena. The real battlefield was media. As Iran became increasingly isolated through sanctions, nuclear standoffs, and regional conflicts, the Islamic Republic needed voices that could speak directly to Western audiences, without translation, without apology. Marandi became one of those voices. He appeared on international networks, panels, and debates, calm and composed, speaking flawless English, reversing the moral assumptions of interviewers. Where Western media framed Iran as aggressor, he reframed it as target. Where sanctions were presented as pressure, he described them as collective punishment. Where Israel was portrayed as defending itself, he questioned the meaning of defense under occupation. His power did not come from shouting. It came from destabilizing certainty. He rarely began by saying, "Iran is right." Instead, he asked, who invaded Iraq? Who destroyed Libya? Who armed dictators? Who decides which deaths matter? He did not simply defend Iran. He attacked the credibility of those judging it. That tactic made him polarizing. Supporters saw him as a necessary counterforce against decades of Western narrative dominance. A man who could expose hypocrisy in real time. Critics called him a propagandist, accusing him of laundering the image of an authoritarian state. Both sides agreed on one thing: he was effective. His family background reinforced his position. His father rose to prominence in Iran's political and medical institutions, serving in high-level governmental roles. Marandi did not operate from the margins. He belonged to the educated elite of the Islamic Republic. He understood the state not as an abstraction, but as a living system with internal logic, fears, and priorities. Religion was not merely personal belief for him. It was civilizational identity. In Marandi's public rhetoric, Islam functions as moral architecture. It justifies sovereignty. It sanctifies resistance. It frames history as a struggle between domination and dignity. His worldview aligns with the revolutionary ethos of the Islamic Republic. That independence from Western power is not optional. That compromise leads to subjugation. And that dignity sometimes requires confrontation. This places him within what is often called the axis of resistance. In his narrative, Iran and its allies are not destabilizers, but defenders responding to a century of intervention, coups, occupations, and sanctions. He portrays the Middle East not as chaotic by nature, but as systematically destabilized by external powers. What makes him dangerous in debate is not volume, but fluency. He knows Western history. He knows its vocabulary. He speaks in the grammar of human rights, colonial critique, and moral philosophy. He does not reject those frameworks. He turns them back on their creators. When nuclear negotiations dominate headlines, Marandi frames them not as technical disputes, but as tests of whether Iran is allowed to exist as an independent power. He argues that Iran is punished even when it complies, that agreements are broken not by Tehran, but by those who control financial systems and global institutions. In his telling, the nuclear issue is symbolic. It reveals whether the world is governed by law or by hierarchy. His media presence reflects this strategy. On social platforms, he dissects headlines, mocks selective outrage, and maps events into a coherent resistance narrative. He treats information as terrain. Every story is a front line. He does not simply react, he reframes. This is why he is repeatedly invited and repeatedly criticized. He forces discomfort. He does not play the role of the apologetic foreigner. He speaks as an equal, sometimes as a judge. Yet beneath the confidence lies a deeper contradiction. He was born in America. His earliest environment was the civilization he now spends his career challenging. To supporters, this proves his insight. To critics, it proves hypocrisy. Either way, it intensifies his symbolic power. He embodies the clash between two worlds inside a single person. His stance toward internal Iranian dissent reflects the same logic. Where Western observers interpret protests as proof of illegitimacy, Marandi often frames them as exaggerated, manipulated, or weaponized by external powers. For him, cohesion is survival. Fragmentation is vulnerability. This reveals how deeply the siege mentality shapes his worldview. In Marandi's universe, politics is not about ideals. It is about power distribution. Who controls money? Who controls weapons? Who controls stories? He understands that bombs can destroy cities, but narratives decide whether destruction becomes tragedy or footnote. His life's work is centered on that insight. From exile child to war-formed youth, from scholar of literature to warrior of language, from classroom to studio, from analysis to confrontation. His biography is not only personal, it is structural. He represents a new class of political actor, the narrative soldier, a figure who does not command armies but commands interpretation. In an age where wars are live-streamed and sanctions are justified through headlines, people like Marandi become strategic assets. He is not unique. He is a prototype. Every rising power will cultivate figures like him. Every besieged state will need voices fluent in the language of its enemies. The battlefield has shifted from borders to beliefs. Marandi's story is therefore not confined to Iran. It is a preview of the future, a future where influence is measured not only in missiles, but in meaning, where victory depends on who defines reality, where wars are fought not only on land, but in minds. And this is the final, unsettling truth his life reveals. In the 21st century, the most powerful weapon is not the bomb. Bombs destroy buildings. Narratives decide who deserved it. Narratives decide who is mourned. Narratives decide who is remembered. Mohammad Marandi is not dangerous because of what he says. He is dangerous because he shows how easily reality can be rewritten. And in a world where perception becomes power, the one who controls the story controls history. By the way, don't forget to hit like and subscribe button. Also, write us in the comments what you think about Marandi. We'd love to hear your thoughts.